Hello everyone, welcome to another Wednesday Night Live with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper. I'm located in Sheridan, Oregon in the United States. So glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and see if I can get the comments up and see who's on. And hopefully we can get the computer to cooperate with us. See my video, there we go, and there we go. All right. So go ahead and let me know when you're on. I'm going to refresh my screen just to make sure that, hello Jennifer, I can see the comments. All right, so glad you could join me. I hope you're staying cool and having a little bit of fun with the sunshine and enjoying the deck. I know I certainly have been enjoying mine. Okay, so tonight I'm going to be using Coffee with Friends. And you will find this on page 105 of the 2023-2024 Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. This catalog released to customers on May 5th, or May 1st. Well, May 2nd. May 2nd, that's when it released. Anyway, hello Laura. So glad you could make it. Hello Cynthia. Yay. Love seeing you guys join me. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and jump right in and get started. So I've got two cards that I'm going to provide the tutorials for tonight. And then I have three more cards that I made while I was creating with this set that I would like to show you, just for a little bit of added inspiration. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the first project. We're going to start with a A2 sized piece of thick basic white for our card base. And I ran the front of this through the embossing machine with the embossed brick 3D folder. So how I put this in was I just put this in my folder, put this on the edge of the folder, and then I put this with the plates and ran it through this way. It's very important that you make sure that these two sides do not touch the inside of your machine as it goes through so that you don't crack the binding. Okay, so we've got that. Then we have a piece of the Glorious Gingham 6x6 Designer Series paper stack. This is brand new out in the catalog. Blueberry Bushel, Lemon Lime Twist, Pretty Peacock, Berry Burst, and Pecan Pie are the colors that are included in that. They're all the same. You just get two patterns, but you get 40 sheets? Yeah, 40 sheets. So you get 10 each. No. How many do you get? Let's 1, 2. Well, you must get 8. Because 8 times 5 is 40, right? So you get 8 of each. 8 sheets of each pattern. And we're going to be using this piece of Berry Burst. And then we're also going to be using a small strip of the Pecan Pie. Okay. And I have another piece of the Berry Burst. And this really is just cut from this side. Okay. So we're going to use this. Okay, and let me tell you those pieces. This is a sketch that I'm using. So this is 2 1/4 by 5. Oh, actually this one's 4 3/4. 2 1/4 by 4 3/4, but you could use a 5-inch strip. That's actually what the sketch says, but I think when I made my original card and I cut pieces off, I ended up with 4 3/4, so I'm going with it. And then this is 3/4 by 3 1/2, and 1/2 by 4. Okay, so we've got those. We also have a piece of pecan pie cardstock, and this piece is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. And I run this through the embossing machine with the time-worn type embossing folder to get the texture on that, and you can see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got that. And then we are going to be using the Stylish Shapes dies. This is a standard set of dies that I think every stamper should have. And from that, we have the 3rd largest die in Fresh Freesia. I've got a scrap piece of white here. And then I've cut the whiter of the shorter banners for our sentiment out of the basic white. Okay, so we've got those pieces. And finally, we have a piece of, this is actually the white baker's twine, which is from the Essentials, Baker's Essentials twine, Baker's Twine Essentials pack. You get 5 colors. You get very vanilla, gray granite, crumb cake, black, and then you get the white, which I already have out. Okay, you got 10 yards of the white. And so I've, ahead of time, so that this would dry and be ready to go, I took my light Fresh Freesia Stampin' Blend marker and I ran it along the edge. I just put this down and used the marker to color it. I did try it with the dark, and the darker one is really too dark. This one really matches the cardstock. The light Fresh Freesia really matches the cardstock. So I've used the white, and we're going to make a bow with that. And then we've got this scrap piece of white that we're going to stamp on, and this is really a pretty quick card because of the sketch that we have. So we're just going to take the coffee cup and croissant image from Coffee with Friends, and I'm just going to stamp that down. Okay, and then I'm going to take the 2-inch circle punch. I'm going to punch that out with my 2-inch circle punch. Okay. Then, before we get to coloring, I'm going to take the Pecan Pie Stampin' ink pad. This is a new color in the 2023 color refresh. And I'm going to take the Coffee with a Friend. Oh no, I'm not that one. Sorry. Boops. Sometimes you just have to reheat your coffee one more time and try again. So I'm going to ink this up in the pecan pie, and I'm going to stamp this down. And you might want to stamp it and die cut it, but to save us some time, I die cut and I'm stamping, and that's great. I cut myself a second one just in case, but that is perfect, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so our sentiment strip is ready to go. And we are ready to color. So let's just bring in a bit of scrap paper to protect my work surface here. And I'm going to use these Stampin' Blends. So we're going to use the Berry Burst combo, the Pecan Pie combo, and Dark Fresh Freesia. Although I think I need the light one too, but that might be in another bin. Oh, no, it's still in this bin. It just didn't come out at the same time as the rest of them. I didn't grab it. Okay, so you need pecan pie, fresh freesia, and berry burst. So let's start with our pecan pie. I'm going to start with the dark. And I'm just going to color the, hello Tracy, the lines of the croissant. And this croissant actually does look quite good in wild wheat, but I didn't have wild wheat in my Glorious Gingham card DSP pack, so I switched to pecan pie. I'll see if I have those samples laying around here where I colored it in wild wheat. Okay. All right, so there's our croissants. Oh, you know what else we need? We need the light gray granite. And I have that in another bin, so for the next card. So let me grab that. Oh, well, I've got light smoky slate, so that's what we're going to use. And we're just going to color the little teaspoon here. Okay, so light smoky slate will color your teaspoon. You could use the light gray granite if you'd like. I actually prefer the smoky slate, and that's what I have handy, so that's what we're going to use. All right, so here is the hard part of this. We are going to take the light pecan pie again, and I'm going to very carefully dot some color inside my cup. And you just want to dot because you don't want this color to run or bleed into your whipped cream looking heart there. So you see how that turns out when you just dot the color? Okay, so we're going to do that again with the second cup, which is even tinier than the first. Okay, so just by dotting that color, that's what we get. All right, so let's go ahead now and we'll color our cups. And I wanted my cups and plates to kind of coordinate with my cardstocks and things. So I'm going to do one plate in the fresh freesia and one cup in the fresh freesia, and then the opposite in the berry burst. So let's start with berry burst, and I'm going to start with the dark. And I'm going to color a little bit of dark around these edges here where there would be some shadows from the cup onto the plate and from the croissant. And then I'm going to fill that in with the berry burst. And I'm using the dark first because I want to make sure I can go right over the top and not worry too much about blending and bleeding. Okay, so I've got my plate done. And now I'm going to do this cup. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with my dark berry burst. I'm going to put just a little bit on the rim there. And then I'm going to run this down like so, just to give that a bit of darkness. Then I'm going to go back with my light. And I'm going to fill that in, and I'm going to start right where I colored to begin with. And then I'm going to blend those two together. Leave just a little bit of white. And I'm going to dot that onto the cup handle. Okay, so we have one cup and one plate done in the berry burst. Now let's go ahead and do our fresh freesia. And again, I'm going to start with my dark and put that where the darkness would be, just to give that cup some depth. And then I'll go to the light. Right over that dark. Okay. And then we're going to do the handle, and then I'm going to go back and start with the dark on the plate edge here. I'm just going to dab right here so I don't get into my other colors. And put a little bit here where there would be a shadow. And we'll finish it off with the light. Okay. And there we have it. Okay, so we'll set those aside. And now we're ready to start assembly on our card. This card really is pretty quick and easy. So we're going to add this piece to our, wonder what I did with my Twizzlers. Well, I guess we'll use the other ones because I don't see where I put the other ones. And oh, they fell all the way down. Here we go. My container's getting a little bit on the older side, and some of the elastic is a little bit loose, so things fall. They slip down. Okay, so we've got that. Let's fold up our card and get our bone folder. Line up those edges as best I can here. Give them a good hold and then press that down. Okay. And I'm going to flip this over because I don't want to press out my embossing. And we're going to put this down first. We're going to try and give that an even border on the three sides, like so. And then we're going to add this piece, and I'm going to make sure that my words are upright. And then we'll put this piece here and add, I'm going to shorten this a bit. I don't want this that long. See, I want this to be about 3 3/4. So I want it to sit, actually, let's see, I want it to sit, yes, I want it to sit like this. Okay. So we're going to make this 3 3/4. All right. So let's go ahead and put our layers down. And I'm going to do that with some liquid glue because I'm adding this piece to an embossed layer. And this is a brand new glue bottle. Got to be very careful. Okay. So again, I'm going to try to get even borders. And then we're going to put this piece down on top of that one. Like so. And then we're going to put this one here. And I want this one to straddle these two so that I've got the pecan pie pattern to this side and to this side. You don't have to do it that way, but I liked the look of it. Okay, and then I'm going to add this piece here, and I'm going to line this up with the edge of this piece and then have it stick out that edge. Okay. So again, I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue here. I'm going to overlap these two pieces just a bit. Line that up with the edge. And there we go. Okay, so we're almost finished. Now we're going to get some Stampin' Dimensionals. And we're going to add our focal image to the card using Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to put this about right. Hang on, where'd this go? I want this to go here like so. So I'm going to dry fit that. And I'm going to put this down just a little bit more. There we go, just like, I want this to overlap that gingham a bit. Okay, so we've got that. Again, we're going to pop up our sentiment, Stampin' Dimensionals. And then I'm going to add this down here, kind of off to the side a bit. Oops, I want that to have a little bit of space between the two. But I still want to see a little bit of that pecan pie at the bottom. So just about like that. Now let's go ahead and tie ourselves a bow. And you know me, I'm bringing in the bow jig. And I'm actually going to make this a triple bow. So I'm just going to tie this up. Okay. Now fluff out those bow pieces a bit. And I'm going to put that on with a glue dot. I'm going to get my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to roll this up a bit. My Take Your Pick tool into a bit of a log. And I'm going to just put this on the back of this. And then I'm going to stick this down at the top here. Get some scissors and we'll snip that off a bit so it's not quite so long. All right, and finally for this card, we're going to take the Tinsel Gems 3-pack, and I'm going to use the Fresh Freesia. And I'm going to take a larger one. I'm going to stick it right there. And take another one of the larger ones. And I'm going to stick it right here. And then a smaller one up there. Okay. So there is our card front. And for the inside of our card, I took another piece of the Glorious Gingham Berry Burst, And then I inked and stamped off twice that image so that you could write over it. And then I'm just going to add this. I'm leaving it without a sentiment on the inside so that I can write a message or stamp a sentiment later, depending on whom the recipient is and what I plan to use it for. Okay, so I've got that. And then our envelope, I've got a piece of the pecan pie, glorious gingham, and I'm going to add that to my envelope flap. Let me bring in my silicone mat here so I don't get glue on the edge of my, or on my work surface. So I'm just going to take a little bit of liquid glue. Most of the time I don't have to worry about this, but it's a brand new bottle and I'm never sure what a brand new bottle's going to do. So we're going to do that. If you decide that you have a little too much, just take the tip of your bottle and push it inward so that it doesn't squish outward. And then this piece is 2 1/4 by 6. And I'm just going to lay this at the crease of my envelope flap. Give that a good press. Take my paper snips and run this around the envelope flap. Trim that off. Do not worry about whether you trim the envelope or not. It doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna know. And there we are. So now you've got a coordinating flap of your envelope, and for the front, I took one of the images from the Coffee with Friends stamp set, this one, and I stamped my gal down here in the bottom, making sure that I just got the coffee cup. And there is the first project. Okay, so let me clean up just a bit. And I need to clean off a couple of stamps. I'm just going to do that on my chamois. And really, we only used 2 stamps, so there we are. Okay. Now we can move on to our second card. We'll set this one aside and we'll bring it back later. Okay, and we're going to need those gems again. So let me grab those. I'm going to switch these containers. Okay, so for the next card, we have quite a few Stampin' Blends. And I'm just going to show you the colors because I wanted to really save some time, and so I did the coloring already. So let me get these out here so you can see what I have. Okay, dark and light smoky slate, light gray granite. Got the Calypso corals. And I've got light and dark petal pink, the light SU900. This comes from the light combo SU900 of the Natural Tones collection. We've got some light Pool Party and some light Old Olive. I don't know if you can see. Did I get them all in there? It's quite a little list of those. Let me see if I can push those up just a bit. There you go. I think that's everything. Okay. So for this one, we've got again, a white card base. This is a fun fold card. Okay. Let's go ahead and move these off to my left out of the way. So we're starting with a thick basic white card base again, 5.5 by 8.5. I've scored it at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. Okay, so first I'm going to fold it at the 4 1/4. Okay, and then I'm going to fold it at the 2 1/8, and I'm going to fold it in the same direction. Okay, so our card will look like this. All right, and this is going to be a pop-up easel card. Okay, so that's our card base. Let's set that aside for the moment. Then you're going to need a piece of Lost Lagoon, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. And again, I have embossed this with the 3D brick embossing folder, or exposed brick 3D, but this time I've taken it and I've run it through like this. Okay, now because when you use a 3D embossing folder, excuse me, my words are hard, it weakens the paper, and then it's kind of a little bit floppy. So I added to the back a second piece of Lost Lagoon 4 by 5 1/4. And the reason why I did that is because I'm going to glue this half, only the bottom half, so that this will pop up. So we can go ahead and do that now. I'll get my card sample so I can see what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so I can go ahead and put this on now. The important thing is that we do not glue past this line. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on my card base, and I'm going to go in, because we've got about 1/8 of an inch around the edge. I'm going to bring my glue in a ways, if I can get it to flow. Okay, just like so. And then I'm going to flatten this out, and I'm going to lay my card base down with my card flat. Line that all up the way I want it, and then give it a press. Okay. So now when I stand my card up, this is what I have. Okay. This is what your card should look like. Okay. Now we can set that aside, and we need to do some stamping. Oh, and I should have told you while you were embossing, you also needed to emboss a piece that was 2 inches by 5 1/4. And this is going to go on the inside here, which this one looks to be a little bit, I must have done 5.5, and I need it at 5 1/4. You need it to be 2 by 5 1/4 because you want it to line up the same as your front piece. So let's see. Yes, I did cut it at 5.5 rather than 5 1/4. So let's go ahead and trim that off. And then we can add this to the inside of our card base. Okay. All right, so let's do that now, because we can. And this time I'm going to put my glue on my embossed piece, because I'm going to glue it completely flat. Okay. So we'll just center this up at the bottom of our card here. The liquid glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so we've got those. Our card card base is totally prepped. Now let's bring in, I've got a piece of Pool Party cardstock, and I cut this with the second largest of the scallop contour dies. That's this one, the rectangle. Okay. And we're going to do just a little bit of stamping on that. Okay. And I'm going to pull in a second stamp set. I'm pulling in the Layering Leaves. This is a $1 Million Sales Achiever stamp set by Rachel Tessman. This is also included in the new 2023-2024 annual catalog. It coordinates with the existing bow punch. So these will line up with that punch perfectly. But I'm going to use the speckle stamp out of here because this stamp in itself is worth its weight in gold. So we're going to bring in the Pool Party ink pad. Okay, and I'm going to throw in some spatters on here. Okay, and I'm going to try and keep them within the bounds of the stitched inner part. Now if I go out, it's not, you know, the end of the world, no biggie. I'm going to keep turning my stamps so they don't all look uniform. Okay, now I don't have anything in the middle, and that does not matter, okay, because I'm going to cover that up. So I'm not concerned about that. So this piece is ready, and we can set it aside. Okay. Then you will need a scrap piece of white, and you need the girlies here sitting on the bench with their coffee. We're going to ink that up in Memento because we're coloring with Stampin' Blends. I'm not going to color this whole image because I've already done it, but I do want to show you a little trick. You need to make sure that you get over a little bit so that you can cut this out. And we're using the Nested Essentials dies for this, and we're going to use the largest one. And this barely fits, so when we go to put this on the embossing machine, we're going to put the top of the ladies' heads right at the edge of the inner die, and it's going to cut off a little bit of the ground, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so that's how we're going to place that on there and run that through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. But before we do that, we're going to color this. Okay, and I'm going to show you just a couple of quick tips. So what I did for the ground was I took the light old olive, and you just want to color this up and just get under their feet a bit. And you're going to cut off some of this grass, so don't worry about how far you go down, okay? Because it's going to come off anyway. So that's what you need to do for the grass. Oh, I needed those pecan pie blends. What did I put them back in the other bin? Because we're using those again. Okay, so pecan pie, light and dark pecan pie. And what I did with the bench is I put this in. Okay, and I'm going to go down. Okay, get those three. These slats are open and you can actually see the ladies' shirts through them, so you want to make sure that you keep your blend out of those pieces. And I just put dark across the very top here. I'm using the bullet tip, and then I put just a little bit along these pieces and this bottom edge right here. And if you just barely touch these blends to the paper, you'll have a much better result. Okay. All right, so that's that, and then we want to put a little bit there, and then we'll just fill this in, making sure that we don't fill in those slats, the open part. So you do have to be a little bit careful to make that work. Okay. Alright, so we've got that. Okay, so there's your bench. See how I just flick the color over? And then I'll flick it back. Flick it over. Flick it back. It helps me control my color. Just a little bit of a flick here and there. Okay, so now my bench is pretty much done, and I forgot down here with the dark right along this. I just want to put a little bit of dark on the inside of the leg of that where there would be a shadow. And then I'll go back and fill that in. Okay, so that part's done. For their tops, we're using light and dark Calypso Coral and light and dark Lost Lagoon. You pick what you want where. Either way, it'll work beautifully. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to start with actually the dark Calypso Coral. And I'm going to just do the edges here of the binding of her shirt, and then where the artist drew some lines here. And then we're going to fill this in with the light Calypso Coral. Okay, and then in here, between these slats, you can see the edges, or just a tiny bit of their shirt. So you just want to barely touch the tip to the paper, and again, kind of flick that along there. And then you'll be able to see just a tiny bit of color between those slats. And you'll repeat that again with the other lady with the Lost Lagoon, okay? Then I took a bit of the light crumb cake and I colored in the wrap there, and there's just a hint of the wrap right there above that lady's hand. So I used the light crumb cake. All right. And then I used light and dark petal pink for the Lost Lagoon shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of dark petal pink here along the bottom where there would be a little shadow. Okay, so she's got her pants done. And for the coral, this is where we're going to use some light and dark smoky slate. Okay. So again, I'm going to bring in my dark, and right under the slat here, I'm going to put just a little bit, and there's an artist mark there. And I'm going to put a little bit there, swipe down a little bit here. And then I'm going to go back with the light smoky slate and blend that together. Okay. Oh yeah, and don't forget when you're doing this lady, I used the dark Lost Lagoon to do her headband here, and then her shirt is the here. So we're just going to do that. Get a little bit of the Lost Lagoon in here. Okay. And again, we're barely going to touch our Stampin' Blend to the paper here, just to get some color between those slats where you could see it. Okay. And then finally for the skin color, I used the Natural Tones Light Combo SU 900 in that pack. Okay, so we'll just color in that skin quickly. Don't forget her face and her legs. You can use whatever skin tone you want. This is just the one I chose because it's more my skin tone. And I'd say I'm this girl right here. Okay, so there we go. Now we just need to color shoes, and you could do those whatever colors you want. I pretty much use gray granite and the light smoky slate for these, just to coordinate them. So I'm going to put the dark smoky slate here, or the light smoky slate, and then I'm going to take the light gray granite and just put on the bottom. Okay, so I've got that. And finally, for the hair. So for the hair, I took the light gray granite and the medium deep SU 300 for my long-haired lady. And I'm just going to put in, actually I started with medium deep, and I'm just flicking in some color. I'm not coloring the whole thing, I'm leaving spots, because you know I have gray hair, right? So I'm going to add a little bit of gray granite into that hair, just to put some more tones in there, okay? And then for this lady, I'm actually going to put in some light smoky slate, and I'm going to do that first. Okay, and then I'm going to go back with the light pecan pie, and I'm just going to fill this in. And I'm going to leave just a little bit of the gray areas. And I'll go back over that just a little bit to add in a little more gray looking. Okay. All right. So that is how I colored my friends. And then, like I said, I took the Nested Essentials, largest rounded corner rectangle there, and I cut that out. And then I have this. While I was also at the die cut machine, I took a piece of basic white and I cut the smallest Nested Essentials for my sentiment. Okay? Oh, and don't forget to add Wink of Stella to the shirts of your ladies here. Okay? You want to do that. Well, you might not want to, but you know me, I love my Wink of Stella. So we're putting a little bit of Wink of Stella on the shirt, and I'm even going through the slats. And there we go. Okay? And I did not do her headband, and we need sparkle there. Okay, so here's our piece. Now we're going to add this piece to this scalloped contour layer, but before we do that, we're going to bring in our linen thread. Okay, and I am going to give myself enough to tie a bow over on this side, and then I'm going to wrap this over these scallops. And okay, let's get this one here where I want it, and then here. Then we'll bring this up and tighten everything up. And then I'm going to tie a bow over here on the left. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Whoops. I need to run this through all three of those. Okay. Then I'm going to tie myself a knot. Keep that nice and taut. And then cut me off a piece here and tie up my bow. Just like that. Okay. Now, move that out of the way. And now we have, I'm going to move these a little bit. You want to move these up. Just fold your card in just a bit. There we go. I'm happier with that. Okay, then we're going to take and pop this up on some Stampin' Dimensionals. And we've got those right here. And I'm going to try to get these high enough that they don't get over. Okay, so I'm going to put, normally I would just put one in the center, but I don't want my Stampin' Dimensionals to go over, right over the top of the linen thread and rest on it, because that will just add more bulk than I need. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to set it in here like so. Try to center that side to side. Good enough. Okay, now we are ready to add this to our card base. Now I'm just going to do that with some liquid glue. So let's flatten that down. I'm going to keep my liquid glue inside the perforated lines because I don't want glue coming out of the perforations. Okay. And we'll center this up like that. Give that a press. Okay. Now we need to stamp our sentiment. And our sentiment is going to say, coffee with a friend is happiness in a cup. And we are going to use I'm actually going to use Lost Lagoon for that. You could use black or gray. I'm going to use the Lost Lagoon. So I'm going to ink that up. And this sentiment will just fit side to side. I'm just going to set that down for a second. Let it soak in. And there we go. Then I'm going to put a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals on it. And then I'm going to bring back in my card base. Take off my wax papers. And I'm going to hold this up with my left hand. Center this about where I want it to sit, because this is going to be our easel. So that when we finish that, it's set up like that. Interesting. Okay, so now the last thing that we need to put on this is our embellishments. And again, what did I do with my sample card? Because what did I use for embellishments? Interesting. Where did my card go? There it is. Okay, so I used these ones, I think. These are supposed to be pretty peacock, but I think they go pretty well with this. They don't really look peacocky to me. So let's get our, take your pick, and we'll start with small one here. And I'm going to put a larger one here. And then I'm going to get another smaller one. And I'm going to put it over here. Okay. And there is our finished card. Okay. For the envelope, I've taken the coffee and croissants image and I stamped that. This is where I did the croissants in wild wheat. And then these 2 cups are done in Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock. Again with the light pecan, the light pecan pie for the coffee or cocoa. Cocoa in my case. Okay, so I hope you liked those projects. I'm going to bring those in. Let me show you the other ones that I did, but I've got to get some stuff out of the way here. Let me clean this up a bit. And then I've got 3 other cards to share with you. Whoops, sorry. Sorry, hope that didn't make anybody sick. Okay. So we've got that one. Now this is a card I made for a challenge. This challenge was to use up DSP scraps. So I've used the scraps from Hello Irresistible for all of these, including the stamped piece and the sentiment piece and the leaves. Those are all from Hello Irresistible. It has a Flirty Flamingo card base. This is the new Lost Lagoon ribbon from the annual catalog. And to color this, I used my watercolor pencils, and I used the Early Espresso, and I just colored in the coffee and the croissants. And then I used the gray, the basic gray for the spoon. And I left the cups. This has iridescent pearls here. And then on the inside, I used my mini pocket die and another piece of the Designer Series paper with the Thinking of You from this Coffee with Friends. to make this a little gift card. You could easily slip in a coffee gift card in that little envelope. Okay. So there's an idea for you. And then I paired it with this card. I used the single girl with the coffee cup, and this is from the Tree Rings.
I didn't get that. Could you try
I'm not talking to you, Siri. The Tree Rings embossing.
I understand.
The Tree Rings embossing folder. And then this also comes from the Ringed with Nature, these flowers back here. The rest of these images are from Grassy Grove. And I just used those in Parakeet Party, Garden Green, and Shaded Spruce, and Granny Apple Green. Okay, so I've got that. Then for the inside, I just stamped that little flower. So there's another idea. And finally, this is a pretty simple card. This uses oceanfront. And again, it uses that gal, and I left her porch or her deck on here. And then I just stamped those images and colored her up. And that makes a pretty quick card. The Designer Series paper that's in the background here is from the Inked Botanicals 6x6 paper pack. And then for the inside, I just added a strip there. Okay, so there's a few card ideas for you using this stamp set. And then I'll bring back in the ones that we made together today. We've got that, and my other one I put back in the bucket. So we've got these two. All right. So there is quite a bit of inspiration using coffee with friends. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks everybody for joining me. I will see you back here next Wednesday night for another Wednesday Night Live. Hope you have a great week. Good night.